Hello and welcome to today's episode of Daily Current Affairs with Sathya sir. This is me Satyanarayan from IQ Ideas and I bring you important news updates of current affairs from a leading daily newspaper. I also point out great articles that you can read for improving your reading comprehension and of course words of vocabulary for general improvement of English language. Today is the 12th of August 2025 and without further ado let's jump into the main headlines for today. So there is a global page in this paper which has news from America. Good old President Trump says will take control of DC police, deploy National Guard to US Capitol. But that seems a bit cryptic. So we'll have to read the news to understand why is Trump going to take control of the police and deploy the National Guard. The US President Donald Trump on Monday placed Washington, D.C., a heavily Democratic city, under federal control, citing out of control crime in the city, even though government statistics show violent crimes have fallen across the country, including the nation's capital. Trump and his administration officials cited episodic crime, including the carjacking and mugging of prominent former Doge executive Edward Corstein, nicknamed to take over the city that votes 92% Democrat. If the capital is dirty, the whole country is dirty, and foreign visitors won't respect us, Trump said as he talked up episodes of violent crime, drug use, graffiti, and poor roads that afflict parts of the city and declared a public safety emergency and signed executive orders for the takeover. He also pledged to clear the city of homeless people, many of whom shelter within blocks of the White House. Now, this is a very, very concerning piece of news. You are in a place where majority of the voters are of the opposite party, and now citing crime, which the report seems to say is actually going down, use that as an excuse to declare sort of an emergency and take control of the city. Interesting times. In other news, we have Israel steps up Gaza bombing after Bibi vowed to expand offensive. Airstrike kills 6 journalists. So the ongoing conflict between Israel and Palestine has Gaza bombing. I mean, it's not exactly a new news, but the news indicates that more bombing, more intensive bombing has taken place there. Australia to recognize Palestinian state, says Albanese, and New Zealand is mulling the move. To mull over something is to contemplate, is to think about something. To mull over something is to contemplate something. Okay. Now we have a very interesting piece of news here, which says US to take cut of AI chips sold to China. Now US is specifically President Donald Trump is trying to make America great again by imposing tariffs on all countries. And one of the rationale given is that this would encourage people to buy American, and a lot of money will be made. And they've also given big figures of how much money because of the tariffs have been earned. But that earning is pretty dubious because such tariffs are not paid for by anyone else other than the citizens of your own country. But in this news, Nvidia and AMD are to pay 15% of their sales. So technically speaking, Nvidia and Advanced Micro Devices are expected to pay the US 15% of the money they take in from selling artificial intelligence chips to China as part of a highly unusual financial agreement with the Trump administration. So technically speaking, this almost makes the Trump-led government a partner in that particular business. So you, on one hand, don't want other countries to benefit at your cost, but then you are willing to let your companies sell to other countries, but you want a percentage cut from that. Strange. Okay. So let's move on to the front page news. Now, here are the big news, the effects of which have been on social media for the past 24 hours or so. So, this is a Supreme Court pronouncement where they have asked all stray dogs to be removed from the Delhi and National Capital Region The Supreme Court has given an order to remove all stray dogs from Delhi National Capital Region streets. And it is said create a helpline for bites, make vaccines available. And the bench has also said, and I quote, you should not find a single stray dog going around anywhere in any locality in the city or on the outskirts. So this obviously has given rise to great amount of uproar, especially among animal lovers. But here, when giving the order, the court made it clear that any resistance from individuals or organizations against implementation of its order would draw contempt proceedings. So this is pretty disturbing news for animal lovers, and I have seen so many memes and reels where this thing has been discussed like crazy. Okay, so let's move ahead. The city page does not seem to have much national level important news. So we move ahead to the state page. Again, a lot of crimes. Okay, we come to the first nation page, in which there is again a pronouncement by the CGI. And High Court and Supreme Court judges on a par, says the CGI. So the Supreme Court on Monday said that constitutionally High Court judges are on par with its judges. Supreme Court has no administrative control over High Courts and their judges, but is duty bound to protect them when they face scandalous allegations, a three-judge bench headed by B.R. Gawai said. Okay, the Apex Court passed this order while asking a Telangana politician who made scandalous allegations against an High Court judge to tender unconditional apology to the judge. Okay, below that is an interesting article, and this is again regarding the Supreme Court order regarding removal of stray dogs, where activists say stray dogs order of Supreme Court goes against government's 2023 rules. That's pretty interesting. Let's read on. Animal welfare activists argued on Monday that the Supreme Court order was in violation of Animal Birth Control Rules 23 issued by the central government. These rules do not endorse the shifting of dogs from localities where they are caught. The activists also pointed out that Delhi NCR does not have a single government-run dog shelter. The activists also wondered how shifting of dogs could be implemented without a head count of an area's canine population. The logical way to deal with the matter is to first conduct a dog census, arrive at a coherent definition of aggressive dogs, then shift the said aggressive dogs to shelter. So this is expected to be in the news for quite some time for now, unless there's some bigger news in the making. The next nation page again has updates of the Dharali flash floods. Then we have an update from the Ukraine Prime Minister. So Zelensky dials PM ahead of Trump-Putin meet. So PM Narendra Modi and Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke on Monday as efforts to end the Russia-Ukraine war gained momentum ahead of President Donald Trump's meeting with Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in Alaska. As India faces US sanctions for oil imports from Russia, Modi has spoken to Putin last week and called for conflict resolution through political and diplomatic means. Now, India is definitely one which is there for mediation, and although certain people might be taking credit for having mediated a lot of conflicts, and have in fact even there have even been calls for the Nobel Peace Prize to be awarded. But India is actually better placed because of our relations with various countries, our known historical policy of non-alignment and friendship towards all. Okay, the next is the middle page, my favorite. So let's see what articles do we have. We have an article by Vijay Gokhale, India's ambassador to China. First tango in 5 years. So this would be, of course, the meet between India and China. India and Chinese interests diverge in South Asia and Indo-Pacific. But globally, in the face of Trumpian disorder, India's strategic, economic, and technological interest lies in working with China. Now, as I have said quite some time, today two of the big powers, both in terms of economy and military might, are India and China. And of course, with the US's rising tariff war against different countries, it would be in the best interests of the Asian region and the world in general to have India and China come together. In fact, the RIC, Russia, India, China triad, is expected to be coming up. But let's see, this definitely seems to be an interesting article to read. Below that, we have an article by Arghya Sen Gupta, who's the research director at Vidhi Center for Legal Policy. His personal views about impeachment of a judge, the plot always thickens. These proceedings have a sordid history in Parliament. It remains to be seen whether Justice Verma's case will be deliberated fairly and quickly, but constitutionally, court has no role in it. Okay, so something which is sordid, that's an interesting adjective. So something which is not good, something which is yuck, that's sordid. The three articles on the left: one, fish in new waters. Trump's extortionate tariffs needn't badly hurt seafood exporters, but governments have to act fast. Okay, so obvious reference to tariffs and a viewpoint on the impact on seafood. Then again, an article related to the Supreme Court order regarding stray dogs in Delhi NCR. Straying from reason. Why two-judge Supreme Court bench directions on street dogs urgently needs a close second look by the top court. And finally, a column by Anil Abraham, when travel enthusiasts forget to read the newspaper, tripping up. Great. The next is a half special page related to river dolphins. And below that, things related to parliament and politics. We have the business page, of course, where there is something related to law and business. So the Lok Sabha approves updated IT bill, and there should be information technology and not income tax to ease compliance burden. Okay, so Lok Sabha approves updated IT bill to ease compliance burden. Let's read on what it is. The reforms to promote a transparent tax system. Okay, and then there are specific details given. Okay. Other than that, we have standard news. Coming to the sports page, I think for the first time in so many weeks, cricket is not in prominence. But there's a reference, in fact, there's a big article related to the National Sports Bill, which is to be passed. So, a vote for sports reforms in India. The Lok Sabha passes legislation aimed at reforming NSF's National Sports Federation's administration. Anti-doping amendment bill also clears the lower house test. So, in fact, that would be a big news update that the Lok Sabha passes legislation aimed at reform. So so the Lok Sabha has basically passed the National Sports Governance Bill 2025 and the National Anti-Doping Amendment Bill of 2025. This was done with a voice vote on Monday amid opposition's protests over the SIR drive in Bihar. Okay, so for law aspirants, I would definitely strongly recommend that you read this article and also go online and search up and read the entire process of how a bill is passed and what these two specific bills are. Right? Okay, other than that, then there are general news related to cricket and women's cricket and athletics and chess. And the last page also has minor updates on different sports. That pretty much brings us to the end of today's episode. As you can see, the biggest thing in news is, of course, the brouhaha in the country over the Supreme Court's order regarding stray dogs on streets in Delhi and NCR. And of course, the bills being passed in the Lok Sabha, important ones being related to sports. So if you have liked today's episode, do hit that like button, share it with your friends, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so. Put your comments below to give me feedback.